Hey everyone, so this is day 6 and 7 combined. Didn't really have time to do a vlog yesterday, mainly because the last 2 days has been so intense. Actually, yesterday we had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do a 5 hours meditation. Actually, it's very, very intense. It's a 5 hour non-stop as well. And the purpose of that meditation was to activate the pineal gland through a series of exercises. So an interesting thing is it went by in a flash, right? Like, in my actual sense of it, I think the time felt much more like an hour than 4 hours, which is really, really strange. And also, there's something about the type of meditation that we've been doing, and perhaps the energy that we're creating as a collective. I have been sleeping for no more than 4.5 hours each night, but I'm wide awake every night. So let me just say something about my experience in the last 2 days. So the last 2 days have been structured in a format where we started with a morning walk, a walking meditation, and then a long, long meditation, and then in the afternoon there's usually the coherence healing sessions happens. The coherence healing session is actually extremely special. Like really, really, basically is mind blowing. This is the type of work where this is the climax of the entire retreat. Like in the hindsight, I could see the way how Dr. Joe designed the retreat with lots and lots of meditation at the beginning to the healing at the end is because he wanted to build people's skills, the presence, the energy, and their integrity in this work that we are all doing, so that we could have explosive results in the healing sessions. So in the last 2 days, there have been lots and lots of healings. It's very hard to believe it unless you're actually here experiencing it. An alternative is to dig into literature by people like Joe Goldsmith, or who else is doing that? Sri Aurobindo and Yogananda, and a lot of people have been talking about, like, just even throughout history, since the time of Jesus, or maybe even earlier, there have been cases of spontaneous healing or miraculous healing, right? With the only exception that in here, the results are scientifically demonstrated through evidence. So, by the way, there has been a lot of healing that's been taking place in the last 2 days. Right? Like one after another, a guy who had a stroke, who couldn't walk for 10 years because of a left-sided paralysis, started walking today. Yeah, actually, his left leg started kicking during the healing sessions, and he was walking afterwards. A guy with ALS was walking out of his wheelchair. Lots of people who had a really strong conviction that the MS was healed. Even I, as a healer, I was a healer, I wasn't a healie, because only 1 in 10 people get picked as a healie. I think they chose them randomly. So there was a random kind of number generator, and then people who, but very interesting, right? Like, it was usually people who got the most severe health problem got chosen, even though it was supposed to be selected by random sampling. So because I saw all the healies, because they were the same people in the last 3 days, so most of them are wheelchair bound or had to walk with crutches, have mobility issues, or have very severe late stage cancer, etc. So these people were there, just chosen by random, quote unquote, as if there was a force behind the selection that has an intelligence to it. But even I, as a healer, got something, because, when we were talking about the theory behind coherence healing, it really, really clicked. In fact, yesterday, day 6, was the day when the knowledge and how, and the rationales and the mechanism behind the work and why it worked really fell into places for me. So a little bit of the background of Korean's healing, right? Like, the whole theory behind, I think the core value of most spiritual teaching is that God is omnipresent, right? He's everywhere, and he is omniscient, is all-knowing, and the fact is usually instant. And there's also a lot of, even in cross-denomination and cross-religion teaching that talks about how what was the word that I was looking for? Wow, that escaped me. It doesn't matter. It might come back later. So this is the kind of things that that's been described as characteristic of God. And in Dr. Joe's work, he's tried to take a slightly different angle into understanding this phenomenon. Right? He used quantum physics and quantum mechanics, which talks about how matter and energy are actually two states of the same substance. Right? When energies are vibrating at very high frequency, they are existing at a singularity, as a singularity. So there's no duality, there's no contrast, there's no positive, negative, yin and yang, and sort of divisions. But as the wave slowed down, the information that was carried by the wave start manifesting in structure and form, and when it is slowing down to the slowest form, they appear as matter, as this apparently unchanging substance. And what we got wrong, and it's actually scientifically proven, because something that was very impressive about this retreat is, rather in addition to the theory and of course the absolutely mind-blowing experiences, the very vigorous scientific research that they conduct. So they, I think Dr. Joe partnered up with Heart Math Institute in the United States, and University of San Diego, the neurocardiac and neurocardiac pharmacological department, actually, yes. And there was this, if you have to look it up, there was this guy called Professor Hamo Patel that's been leading a lot of their advocacy research of this work. And we've been demonstrating a huge amount of like instant changes, right, or very rapid changes for not just the Heelys, but for people who've been to the retreat over a 7-day period in their blood markers, and extremely comprehensive blood markers. Their RNAs, so the expression of their genes, the microbiome, the bacterial composition in their guts, the tissue, well, you name it, it's been changing in a highly significant, with this highly significant effect as well, actually. And all the data were available. The samples were huge compared to standard scientific research, because sample was chosen, selected from these, from participants of this huge event, right? And because these events are well controlled, people eating the same thing, they have full disclosure of their medical conditions, it actually made for very good experimental conditions. And while the data is talking about all these rapid changes, subjectively, we're actually also seeing how people are really changing, right? Like nerve cell grows back, and this data talking about how neurons is even growing back after traumatic brain injuries and strokes, etc. So these are traditionally usually regarded as completely impossible by Western medicine. So let's go back to a little bit on the theory of how sort of the current science or Joe Dispenza's understanding is happening. They talk about how, well, traditionally we think it's matter that emit energy, right, or waves. But they have been able to very cleverly demonstrate how it's actually the waves that's primary, right? Matter is an emanation of that. So whenever you have, for example, like an illness, right? Obviously, there are physically caused illness, like a cut or an injury or an infection. Well, infections, I'm not sure actually, because a lot of the time infection is caused by a dip in our immunity. So